All right, here we go. We have Gaia Basquiat in the building. How are you doing today?
What's going on, man? I'm doing good.
Still, man, I'm doing great too. And lately, I found it out more about you from your music and from everything else too. With the link that you sent me with a lot of other stuff too, like especially with the whole Sin Republic thing. Like, I've been like checking out the music so far too, and like the Spider-Man EP is like probably like one of the most unique concept EPs I've heard. The Anwell series that you had, like from Anwell 1, 2, and 3, I've been vibing with that too. I also liked the post on the Sin Republic page for Bodhisattva or something like that. Like, yeah, that was also uh now it was pretty dope. Like it's Bodhisattva, right? Or
Bodhisattva. Yeah, that's
oh,
how you say
Bodhisattva. Oh, true,
it.
true.
Yeah.
And like with the lyrics and everything like that too, it has a unique vibe, and your storytelling and your aspect of sounds like very unique in that sense too. And I've been vibing with it ever since.
True, bro. Thank you, bro. I appreciate all of that for real.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So I want to start it off from the very beginning. So you grew up in Detroit, that's correct?
Yeah.
True. So where did you grow up in Detroit, and what was like the environment like for you? Like how do you like describe the conditions from birth until
So
like now?
yeah, I grew up in Detroit. I grew up on the west side and we was pretty much like all around. My dad stayed on Plymouth and Evergreen. And like growing up, I forget like exactly like where about my mom stayed or like where I stayed at. Cause like I live with my mom majority. But like I forget like where we stayed at and stuff like that. But we was like all over the place. Um, just yeah, everywhere. We ended up getting a house eventually. That was in Brightmoor, and then um, we ended up having to move out of that. And yeah, then I ran into some trouble at home when I was like 14, and then I got put into juvenile, and then I didn't end up getting out of there till I turned 18. And so yeah, up until 14, I was in Detroit with my mom's, and then from 14 to 18, ended up being in juvenile justice system.
See what you mean. And I don't want to go into like any other like details like with the stuff. I think it might be a little personal, but I know that you mentioned you detailed like a lot of significant like moments of your childhood, with family issues and mistrust in some cases too, and being like a runaway like in that aspect after I guess something might have happened at one point, and you detail that like in your music and even like about your family. So did you feel that creating music was an escape to get away from the realities that you were facing?
Yeah, it was a lot of like dark stuff around me, and just the upbringing. It wasn't always like the healthiest at times, and so music was just a very um therapeutic way for me to like voice my opinions out and like feel heard. I never felt like people like listened to me a lot, and so like when I started making music, it was like a good way to feel listened to, feel like people listening to me and shit like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. It's kind of like a very unique sound that I've never like really heard in the Detroit scene. Like maybe from like a few like sort of artists. Like you have like your Bodie James, and then you have like people affiliated with like Earl Sweatshirt who live in Detroit that do make that type of sound too. But
Yeah.
like in Detroit, were you like ever inspired? But like, was there ever like any inspiration from like the music scene there that made you want to pursue more in that scene, or like would it be different?
Um. So as far as like the regular Detroit scene, like yeah, that's what I mean. I was appealed to that, like listen to Sada Baby and FMBDZ, and even like a little bit of the Flint people like YNJ, people like that. But that wasn't like I don't know. I was so what made me get into rap was listening to Chance the Rapper. I heard the Acid Rap mixtape, and then from there I was like, yeah, like this is what I want to do. I want to make music, and like that type of music was like it was like soul searching and like very introspective and very open and honest and storytelling type stuff like that. So I wanted to make music like that. And like that was just always what drew me to music, and like just the ability to create like an atmosphere and like set the scene and like get something out and like accomplish a goal. And like a lot of Detroit music, that's not what that's about. It's just about getting hype, stuff like that. And so I was making music, trying to make music like that, and I still do make like Detroit trap songs and stuff like that a little bit. But I fell into Earl Sweatshirt's music, and then Earl Sweatshirt made some rap songs, and then that exposed me to people like Mike and Mavi, and just that whole um lo-fi underground sound that I never really knew existed. And then I started listening to MF Doom, and then I started getting into other people that made that music from the Detroit scene, so like Black Noise, and then Denmark Vesey. And then I just started making music like that, really.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah, no doubt. I know what you mean. So you said like Chance the Rapper. So which tape like was like that whole like main like inspiration, like coloring book or like surf or acid rap or
it was definitely acid rap.
all true.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah,
favorite Chance tape right there.
yeah, no doubt. Like honestly, like that like tape got on to me for a bit too. Like Cocoa Butter Kisses was also dope too. Smoke Again was like a very vibrant track too. I know a lot of people overhype Juice, but it was kind of like it was all right. Like it was great at first if you're like a first time listener, but like I know like there's so many like better like songs, like even like favorite song, like that was still like a classic either way, so I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Juice was the song that actually got me on to him. So yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, like that whole to me, like the whole how it was like synchronized and put together was just real perfect, and it just really flowed, and I liked
yeah,
it.
no doubt. So Eminem, I know that he's like a very big staple in Detroit, made lanes for like Royce the 5'9", D12, Obi Trice,
Yeah.
and some other people too, like John Connor too. But in that sense, do you feel that Eminem has paved the way for Detroit rappers to thrive, or who would you say has paved the way for the Detroit rap scene? Like in
I
that
would
sense,
say the Eminem has done a lot for the culture of the city and like the culture of Detroit rap music for sure and for definitely. He's shined a lot of light on the city in general. Just a big name, giving the city attention in general. And then, other people, get to look at us and see other artists that we have and stuff like that. Um, as far as my lane, I don't know if he's had much like influence in that area. Um, a lot of like more underground people like Royce the 5'9", they're like more like lyrical heavy content. Like that was a lot like I feel like pushed by, Eminem and things like that. A lot of that stuff was like able to thrive and, really get around and stuff like that. Um I think I would guess like the biggest inspirations for like my area of music would be like the deeper underground people that like Eminem influenced, but like didn't really end up working with type, like the what Black Milk, um, even Bodie James, people like that.
yeah, I definitely know what you mean. And growing up, I know that you detailed your sort of like your inspiration for a bit too, but what was like also like your musical like history and background, and what were like your other inspirations or your main inspiration in like becoming like a rapper and musician in that sense?
So my father was a musician. He was in a band that was supposed to like go on tour for Madonna, but they like split up and didn't work out and stuff like that. And so I grew up around him. He was real big into music, and then he was real big into the church scene as well. And so he played for a lot of churches, and so I would go to a lot of like church rehearsals and stuff like that and listen to him play. And then he had a band when I was younger, and so I would be listening to like the band rehearsals and stuff, and it just really kept me around music. And then when I turned around like 13, my cousin started listening to Kendrick Lamar. And then I started listening to Kendrick Lamar because she was listening to him. And then I liked him. And then I was listening to rap music. So then, that's how I started listening to rap. And then my biggest influence started off to be Chance the Rapper. And then I fell into Odd Future, and then the early stuff Jaden Smith was doing when I was, what age was I was like 13, 14. And that's when Jaden Smith was like still younger. And he was like just putting out music, but like had been putting out music for a minute, but like was starting to get a more known amongst like people my age. And so I was listening to a lot of his early stuff, and then listening to a lot of Chance, and then fell into a lot of those underground Chicago people that Chance used to work with, Mick Jenkins, Alex Wiley, Vic Mensa, people like that. And then my main inspiration I fell upon, I stick with Earl Sweatshirt. And then like him and Jada Smith was really my main two inspirations. And then Earl Sweatshirt, and like now like MF Doom, Earl Sweatshirt, Alchemist, Mike, Mavi, Navy Blue. Those are all like my biggest, inspirations.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like in the future, who would you like to work with someday? Like if you had the chance to work with any of these like other artists, like in the future, in that sense.
Yeah, I definitely want to make an album with Alchemist, um, Mad Lib, Freddie Gibbs, Earl Sweatshirt, Mike, Mavi. Yeah, a lot of people I've been talking about. Overcast. Overcast is a dope producer. I don't know if you know about him. Yeah, a lot of underground. I'm real connected to like that underground scene. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we spoke a little bit about like Earl's like influence in the scene, like with Mavi, Mike, Black Noise, and also like with Live and with Nikel Smith in that sense too. But like in your music, I noticed like a lot of like similarities like within the sound is quite similar to Earl. Like, would you say that Earl played like an influence like in your music and in your sound? And how would you describe his like legacy and like influence in hip hop and like music today in that sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely was like a big, major influence. And like I said, he introduced me to the whole style. I had never heard rap like that. I never heard people rap over beats like that, and then with verses like that. Just the structure, that I never came across none of my listening field. So when that was all exposed to me, it was like, wow, this is new, this refreshing. I really like it. And then in terms of his legacy and stuff like that, I feel like he has a big part in introducing that type of rap to a lot of people, because like it's out there, and a lot of people are doing it. And a lot of people have been influenced by MF Doom and things like that, even like what the West Side Gun and stuff like that. It's all similar. And so it's shining the light on like true real hip hop. um
Yeah,
and I think it's just beautiful that he has the opportunity to do that and showcase that and put that out for real.
yeah, no doubt. It's interesting about like your name, Guy Basquiat. Like,
Yeah.
like in that sense too. Was there like in your was there like ever like any inspiration and meaning beyond your stage name by any chance?
Yeah, so yeah, it took a while to get my name to Gaia Basquiat, and so before it was just stuff that like I didn't really have no connection to, but it always was Gaia. And so um I was trying to figure out like what to like really really make my rap name. And then my favorite artist, my favorite painter is Basquiat. And if you know about Basquiat, he does expressionism art, and that was conveying how you feel within the painting, and then the painting was very abstract, and I like that concept, and I like that whole dynamic of everything. And I basically, the way I saw it was that, like, I'm like an expressionist rapper, and so I just took the name Basquiat. And Gaia is because I'm very, very spiritual, and yeah, very deep into spirituality. And Gaia is the goddess of the earth, and so I'm always connected to earth, and I talk about a lot of spiritual stuff in my music, and so I just put that in there, and then Basquiat for my favorite painter, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, no doubt. And like just listening to like your music, I know that there's like a lot of like heavy like beat sampling, a lot of like, you know, uh I think implementations or like additions to like conversations or like advice from others and all that other type of stuff, even like from movies and TV shows just being added on to like the sample loops and stuff like that. But like in terms of like making your music, like what's your creative process like when either like producing music or making music, and what would a day in recording music be like for you in that sense?
So yeah, I get a lot of my beats. I don't make most of my beats right now. I get them from other producers. And so it starts off with trying to find beats and get beats. And then after that, I just, listen to the song, meditate on the song, and just let my heart speak, really. And I just get to writing. And that's, pretty much it. It's that simple. I just, like, I don't really map out a lot of stuff or plan out a lot. I just sit down and write, and then once I have a couple songs together, I'll put them together and then figure out what the album is going to be about based off listening to the songs and like what I've put out and stuff like that, and then just keep on making music like that. A lot of my music just flows off like how I'm feeling and like what's going on, and like that's the only thing I can really talk about, and so it all just works out to like whatever songs that I make within a period, they all gonna go together and they all gonna pretty much be about the same themes and the same topics because it's just what's going on in my life, and then that's the album. And so I make an album, and then I might stop for like a couple weeks, and then I go into making another album, and I just keep myself in creating music, so I always have projects lined up, stuff to drop, stuff like that.
I see what you mean. I noticed that like, even with your music too, it's mainly on SoundCloud. I don't know if it was like also like on Spotify or Apple Music, like either because of like sampling issues or other stuff like that. But what made you decide like to use like SoundCloud more than like other like services in that sense?
Yeah, so I do have a few albums on streaming services, but then again, because of the sampling and stuff like that, it's hard to get everything out. And so mainly it started, I guess, with that, but then I did more research and I found out just more, and I just saw how the streaming industry and what the streaming industry does to artists, and stuff like that, and it's not fair. And so then I just really kind of started like boycotting streaming services a little bit. And I figured like once my appeal is big enough to be on streaming services, then I will. And until then I'll just stay on like independent platforms. But then as I grew and as I'm getting older and maturing, I'm really leaning towards sticking more to SoundCloud and Bandcamp, and so just keeping it on those independent platforms and just growing my stuff like that, because it'll turn out to make more money for me in the end and stuff like that, and it's not really about the money for me necessarily, and so like I'm down for the journey that it take.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like I know like with Bandcamp too. I know in some days like some artists actually get like 100% of their like earnings on specific days,
Yeah,
and on other days they'd probably get like maybe like 80 or 90. So
yeah,
that's sort of something that most people should look into like if they're independent acts or unsigned acts, like having your music on Bandcamp, paying like whatever price is needed, like that way, like that artist will get like most of their profits like that way too. And SoundCloud, it's also interesting too. I mean, a lot of like various like big underground like records are still on SoundCloud and never like on Spotify or Apple Music. So that's also like interesting too in that sense.
Yeah, and SoundCloud just opened up they stuff for like not for monetization because they've been had that, but to where they creators get more streaming revenues and stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So Sin Republic, just the group. Tell me more about how it was like formed and how you were like involved in that group in that sense.
So I'm actually so yeah okay. Sin Republic is it started off with me and my friend. We met in the system, and then he do video, I do music, and so then we teamed up, and then he ended up making music, and so now he's a rapper. His name is Lil Alex, and we formed Sim Republic. Sim Republic stands for symbolism in nature, and so um basically like I always wanted a group, and I still do, because like Sim Republic isn't necessarily like up and running right now. I only have like one or two people in it, and then we don't really have any music put out as Sim Republic, and probably won't for like a minute. But I'm still in the process of getting that whole thing together, because really what I want to do is like come out with a whole label and a whole like lo-fi label, putting out a whole bunch of stuff like this, and just contributing to the art that's being put out right now, because I feel like it needs to be pushed, and like a lot of real hip hop needs to come out more and stuff like that. So I want to have a label, and I'm gonna turn Sim Republic into a label eventually, and so yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, it's still a work in progress, and through the years we've had like a couple runs with like a couple group members, but then a fallout, and then people not that serious and stuff like that. So just been going through that and just filtering out who's real and who's not, and we got like I'm liking the involvement that it has right now, even though it's real low. It's very productive still. And so me and one of the people who are in Sin Republic are gonna come out with a duo soon, by the end of this year. And we're gonna start releasing music together, and then that's gonna be like the first little Sin Republic thing, and then we're gonna go from there. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out soon. Like once it's like released and such like that. So, but to speak more on your latest projects, so like the Spider-Man EP and the Bodhisattva like project.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the like creative processes for those projects and what message. Like I know you already talked about like the inspiration beyond them, but like what messages or like themes were you trying to like showcase like through them in that sense?
So for the Bodhisattva one, I had stopped making music for a while, and I hadn't really like made nothing. And then I linked up with this producer. His name was Bermaldi, and I found him through one of my other rap friends on Instagram. He produced for him, and so I hit him up. He was like, "Yeah, let's work." And so we put together that four tape EP, four song EP, and basically I was just so a bodhisattva in the Buddhist culture is a person who goes on a spiritual journey, reaches what they call nirvana, which is like heaven, and then chooses to stay on earth to help other souls reach that stage of enlightenment. And so that's kind of pretty much like what I dedicated myself and my path to, on like a spiritual tip, because went through like a real big spiritual transformation um around like 16, and just been on the spiritual path then. And so I started identifying with that term of a bodhisattva. And so I wanted to start making more music that was more geared towards like spirituality and spiritual people and talk about spiritual themes. And so Bodhisattva was really my first time to fully like delve into that more. And so the songs have spiritual names, and then the songs have spiritual themes and spiritual undertones and just a little bit of stuff like that. And it was just a little taste, like it's not, yeah. And I'm coming out with another project called Gaia in October, which is it emphasizes more on like the spiritual aspect of the music and steps away from like the normal like talking about my life and goes into more of a different theme. So that's interesting. And then for the Spider-Man, I made that when I was in Arizona. And well, I started it when I was in Michigan, and I ended up moving to Arizona, and I finished it there. And that whole tape series is a part of a series. Um, and it's just going to be different projects named after different superheroes, and then it's going to be relating myself to each superhero, and then the album is going to explain like how I relate. And so for Spider-Man, it was more of like um, he's a mortal man that has superpowers and deals with fighting like superheroes and things in his regular life. And he still deals with human problems and has a whole lot of human issues. And then like on the deeper side, like you can go into like his mental state and his psyche and things like that, and concur that like he has, a lot of problems and probably trauma from a lot of the stuff that he's doing, fighting all this crime in New York City and all this stuff. And so I related that to myself, and being that like I'm a regular person, and then I have this superhero or this superpower to make music. And then on the spiritual side, I have stumbled upon like psychic abilities, and I do like tarot readings for people and just stuff like that. And so bringing that all together, I'm a regular person, I have a little bit of superpowers, and then I'm also a person that deals with regular everyday life, and then fighting entities in like the spirit world, dealing with um just things like that. And so putting that all together into a project, Spider-Man. And then yeah, and the Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes as well. And so yeah, just do a lot of comic book references, put a lot of comic book clips in there, and was just explaining it all.
Yeah, definitely know what you mean. Recently, they're about to showcase like the new movie of Spider-Man. Like I think
Yeah,
Spider-Man like No Way Out, or
No
like
Way Home.
no, yeah, I think yeah, like Home Alone or something like that. So with Tom Holland, with Alfred Molina as Dr. Octavius. So how do you feel about that coming up? Do you feel like it might be a very dope movie, or?
Yeah, that movie gonna be hard. All of them new Spider-Man ones with Tom Holland, they all sweet as hell. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So in terms of like all the Spider-Mans like involved, like from Tobey Maguire, like Andrew Garfield, and like Tom Holland, who do you think portrayed Spider-Man better, or like Peter Parker like better in that sense?
Tom Holland definitely.
True.
I like Tobey Maguire because like I grew up off him, but Tom Holland most definitely.
Yeah. I think in that sense too, Tobey Maguire played a better Peter Parker in that sense too. I think the other actors had more of a better aspect of Spider-Man, in that sense, based on their capabilities to be brave, to be like confident in that sense too, while like Tobey Maguire comes off kind of shy in that aspect, but Tobey Maguire played like a big role in my heart, so yeah. So just to get on to your practice of spirituality, so you stated that you study like Buddhism for a bit too, and have practiced it for like a while. And you already explained the role like it has on your life and in your music. But on IG, you also claim to be an esotericist, philosopher, and psychonaut. Could you explain more on that from that aspect?
Yeah, so esotericist, and philosopher, and a psychonaut. I study occultism, which is just like the hidden database of like knowledge in the world, and just a lot of ancient texts and a lot of studying of like ancient civilizations and knowledge and like ancient hieroglyphics and pyramid texts, the Mayans, just different civilizations that left stuff behind, and the things that they talked about, because they were like very, very weird. Talked about stuff like, you know, teleportation, space travel, like way back then, alien sightings, aliens, a whole bunch of stuff. And so I found, you know, this whole other side of the world and just started studying, and went down a very big rabbit hole and found out a lot of information, which was very enlightening and very fun to dabble in. And so I do that now. And I have a TikTok, and I talk about a lot of the stuff that I've learned and know on my journey through TikTok, and I teach a lot of people about it through there. So that's like my outlet for that. And then along the path, I've just become a philosopher and have, you know, developed, you know, my own philosophy on life, and just have started to like cultivate that into a text and into like a curriculum that can be taught and understood by a group of people. And eventually, you know, I'm going to have a big hand in that, and like spreading spiritual messages, and just you know, enlightening and awakening the world as the Buddhists have done, you know, things like that. And then I'm a psychonaut. I have always been like very, very interested into psychedelics, and I had the pleasure of experiencing my first trip um, just this year, and it was very eye opening, and it put a lot of pieces together about a lot of the spiritual stuff that I was researching and looking into, and it really helped me expand on that a whole lot. And so since then, I've dedicated myself to taking trips and taking psychedelics and learning about life from them. And so I do that in my free time, and teach the lessons that I learned about that too. And so yeah, that's a little bit about, you know, my spiritual ventures, stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt. To speak like to speak more on the esoteric type stuff. If a lot of like situations happening that go into like further detail, like in life, such as like the January 6th, like insurrection, 9/11, like Area 51, all that type of stuff. Do you think like a lot of situations like that are like kind of like inside jobs, or do you feel that it's just like the opposite, like in that sense to like hiding from education or hiding from what we should know in those aspects?
So I think a lot of it is a lot of secrecy just in general. And that just skews the perception of a lot of it. So where like we can say, oh, it's this or oh, it's that. And then like that's all speculation, because like we don't really know, because they're not being honest. And they want us to believe certain things and things like that. I definitely believe stuff like 9/11 was an inside job. Um, you know, things like Area 51. A lot of stuff happened in that event that a lot of people are not aware of. You know, like the military has a lot of information about what happened during Area 51, and are holding a lot of technology and things that they've done. You know, like they reportedly, and then there's videos of it. They like interview the aliens, and they have like the interview on file, and like a lot of information from the interview, stuff like that. But like haven't told anybody about that, released that to the public. So you know, stuff like that. Yeah, the government is shady. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely a lot of that.
yeah. I mean, it depends either way too. Like I think both sides, like during those times, Trump, Biden, and any other government, like they do cause some issues here and there too that we don't even know. So
Yeah,
we have to find out on our own either way. I
sure.
just have one last thing before my final question, and it mainly has to do with like hip hop. And I know like how you're big on like real hip hop, like in that sense too. So like I had this theory on the 2016 like double XL freshman. So where they had like Uzi, Yachty, Kodak, 21, all those guys. I felt that, they were randomly placed to change, the cycle of music in that sense to then like other acts that were supposed to be there, like Bryson Tiller or Mick Jenkins, or Tory Lanez, uh, whoever. So, do you feel that like with that situation, like it ruined like hip hop in that sense too? Like it changed the cycle of like how rap is like promoted nowadays too, or would you say like it has happened like before, like in earlier times, like in like 2006, oh
Um,
seven, like
my whole opinion about all of that is really that like the decline of hip hop has been on the part of the listener and the industry at the same time, because the industry the industry listens to the audience, but then at the same time, the industry pushes out based off the audience as well. And so they get something that the audience will like, and then they'll be like, "Oh, y'all like this," and then they'll push it out more, and then that'll become like the next thing. And then the audience will keep eating it and won't see that like they're being played by the industry, and so it just keeps going. And then artists that are the same come out, and people who have similar styles come out, stuff like that, because music isn't about, I feel like, what music used to be about. And like music isn't about like caring about what vibes and what energy you're putting into your life. It's just about being cool and stuff like that. And like I feel like a lot of people listen to people because other people do. And just like the value of music is really lost in this society, and like the power of music and the respect for music in general. And I feel like that has a whole lot to do with the current state of rap and hip hop. um because like it shouldn't even be possible for hip hop to be at the state where it's at now. People should, like, there should be a lot more gatekeeping going on that's not happening. And yeah, the 2016 XXL, I think, um yeah, I don't know if I would say if I agree with the whole that they were like randomly placed there, but I do definitely believe that like that moment and like from that point on, hip hop was different, and like the what was accepted was different, and what was expected was way different, you
yeah,
know.
nah, no doubt. I mean, for me, like what I noticed was that like during that time too, like the most like popular artists at that time, like in the aspect of hip hop, was Bryson, was Tory, sort of post Malone for a bit too, like with White Iverson at the time too, but we don't even know. But like Mick Jenkins, like Alex Wiley, Dylan Cooper, like all these other artists too, like they were also like on the rise, making great music too. But then like Uzi and Yachty and Kodak. Well, Kodak was already like big at that time too, but Uzi and Yachty and 21 Savage, they weren't placed on Billboard like at that time too. Like they started to get those placements like once they were in the freshmen. So I did feel like it was kind of like an inside job on like what they did too, because it kind of just changed the cycle of like how hip hop is supposed to be placed in that sense too. So that's just kind of like my final thoughts for in that sense too.
Yeah.
But moving on to the final question, like I know you said you have like a couple of projects like dropping too, but what are your other plans in terms of like any other music, other creative stuff going on and so forth? And are there any final words you would like to say for any creative or any person out there pursuing their dreams?
So yeah, October I'm dropping my album Gaia, which is my it's kind of like my homage to psychedelics and my psychedelic discoveries and where that has led me in my life. And then after that, I've been working on an AOL 4 with a London producer. And so I'm real hyped to put that out. That sounds really nice. It sounded real good. And then um, I have a few like mixtape ideas, and then working, just gonna be focusing more on like collab projects. And then I'm also a part of this group, this New York group called Anteku Clan. And so we're creating our album right now, and one of our songs actually just got premiered on Shade 45, and so that's looking nice and promising. And so yeah, got a couple of things going on for the future. And what any words for anybody else, pursuing art or pursuing music and stuff like that? Um, I think it's important to just know and to notice that like the times we in are changing a lot, and like success in the future from now is not gonna look like what success in the past has looked like, especially in this career and in this field, especially with everything that they're doing with like the COVID stuff and like the restrictions and just in different states, different countries and stuff like that. Like it's gonna get real crazy and it's gonna be real weird, but like don't stop, because like there's always going to be a space and there's always going to be a place for music. And so like I feel like this is like the perfect time for like a lot of underground creators especially to start getting on, because like a lot of people are bored, and a lot of people and a lot of artists are not delivering um how they used to anymore. Like music is really changing if you really pay attention to it. Like a lot of mainstream acts are changing. Kendrick is leaving TDE. Like a lot of stuff is changing and is becoming different. So it's gonna be a lot of space for a lot of new faces. And so, yeah, just keep grinding and just don't stop.
Yeah, no doubt.